I was trying to come in the beat, just like the Silent Hill games. You know, that Yamaoka guy, he is basically like a beat based kind of like OST writing guy, isn't he? Just drops those weird beats in between all the creepiness of his songs, and somehow they fit perfectly. Hello, everyone. This is your friend Carlz doing another. Um, Man, I stopped doing my line for like 2 episodes, and I already forgot about it. But this is me where I talk about. No, where I whatever. This is my episode about the return to Silent Hill, the latest movie on the Silent Hill franchise. And I pride myself of trying to be a positive person, even though I have a really emo fiber inside of me that makes me feel quite negative about, well, most things in life and in existence, basically. I'm a nihilist. I don't care about nothing, as I say in The Big Lebowski. But when it comes to arts and, well, I was gonna say arts and craft, but when it comes to arts in general, I try to be positive. I try to understand the purpose behind things. There are some products of any type of art, comics, movies, music, whatever, any kind of art, that they are highly commercial in nature. We know that. We know that. Like, and you don't need to be an expert or like have great insight or like nothing. Some things we just know they are made just for the money. One of the things you can always find in movies when they're not made for the money is when they don't have money. People use the term passion project like a lot sometimes, and you can probably see it mostly in movies like Return to Silent Hill, which don't have like big studio support. They don't have, I bet not even Konami, the company behind the games, gave them like $50 to do the movie. Like, in all we know, for all intent and nature, well, that's not the phrase, right? Intent and whatever, but for all we know, this movie was just a passion project of Christoph Gans, the director of the first Silent Hill, and whatever team he could come up with, or whoever wanted to. Now, during my Spanish episode, I did a lengthy intro about the games, the Silent Hill games. But the thing about that intro that I did, that it can be summarized in just one thing. The Silent Hill games, they live in a sort of state, or a sort of like a world of imaginary psychosis. I think the biggest kind of like, to me at least, I've played, I think, all of them. Well, Shattered Memories, the one from Wii, I hated that game, so I stopped playing it. But I played one. No, I haven't played one. I'm waiting for the remake because the PS1 version is unplayable nowadays. I played 2, 3, 4, 5 Homecoming. I played the Origins one, Silent Hill F, Downpour. I think I played most of them. And by now, I have a clear picture of what a Silent Hill game, in my idea, is supposed to be. And they really don't have any one rhyme or reason. I think any Silent Hill game, any good Silent Hill game to me, is the delirium of the protagonist. If you can see them like that, it's a really interesting concept, because as I said, we all have our issues. Some of us have an emo bone, but like, we all have issues. We all have states of mind and thoughts and problems, trauma. And to me, the Silent Hill games have always been that, like this graphical projection of someone living their, not even the deepest, but just your regular trauma. Every Silent Hill protagonist is like that. So Silent Hill becomes this sort of tool, this almost therapeutical tool to bring out these things, these thoughts and these dark things about you, to bring them into light. And through the game, through the visual expression and through the symbolism that has become Silent Hill itself as a concept, not only as a city or as a game or as a franchise, but as a concept. This is like how you live your psychosis, how you live your trauma, how you express it, and that is part of the brilliance, especially of the first 4 Silent Hill games. The thing about the Silent Hill games is that they are games. Being games, to me, there's always a flaw, like a natural embedded flaw in video game adaptations into another media. I mentioned this about the Dark Souls comic books in my comic book show. These are elements that are really not kind of translatable. That is how you create that word, right? They cannot be translated into another medium that easy. The level of involvement of you playing something is really something these creators sort of underestimate. It really is. And even if you're not playing VR, 5D or 7D or however much dicks you wanna have in games today, all it takes is for you to sit down with a controller, control a character, and play around in a game. That it's all the level of immersion you need to feel like you are into something, you are part of something. And the level of immersion never really translates into another media because that is your experience. That is really important. It's your experience that's on the line. And one of the things that out of all the Silent Hills, Silent Hill 2 did the best was to create this ambience, this context, and these characters who are so ambiguous that the level of immersion comes naturally. What do I mean by this? Silent Hill 2, for those of you who don't know by now, is the story of this guy called James Sunderland, who finds a letter from his deceased wife, Mary, inviting him to come to their favorite place in the town of Silent Hill. That's it. That's everything about the game. So on the way to Silent Hill, James discovers weird monsters, weird things in the city, weird people, and he sort of goes through the motions. Because in the end, he wants to know the answer to how come he received a letter from his deceased wife. And here is one of the most brilliant things Silent Hill 2 has done that almost no other game has done, and the thing that I appreciate the most about the game is that from start to finish, you never really know what's happening. And this is no small thing. You don't never really know what happened. And to me, that is intentional. Not only the game has multiple endings, but it lacks explicit explanation of many of the things that's happening in the game. And that helps you to get immersed into the game. As I said, you are playing it, you are taking the controller, you are doing the puzzles, you get immersed into it. And by the end of the game, how old is it? Is it under the no spoiler rule? But whatever. You can't really spoil Silent Hill 2 because the game in on itself has multiple endings. I'm not aware if the writers and creators of the original Silent Hill 2 have officially said what's the official ending or anything, and I don't really care because to me the main strength of the game is that it has an open ending. Did James kill Mary? Did he escape? Did he drown in the lake? Did he save the kid? Did he not? Was he an abuser of Mary? Etc. etc. All of those things are open-ended, and they all come together in the end to make a really strong, unique experience where you are literally living the psychosis and mental breakdown of a character. And they do that masterfully, not only on how the game is made, how it is portrayed, and how it develops, but by the character himself. And this is one of the things that I think that make the original Silent Hill 2 even a little bit better than the remake. In Silent Hill 2 remake, something really strange happened. By the new technologies and probably like the demand itself for the game to be more graphically enhanced, graphically fancy, like for the need for the game to look modern, they did something that to me is a capital sin. They gave James more expressions. James in the original Silent Hill 2 is like a shock guy. He's in shock all the game. He's like baffled. He really doesn't really know what's going on. So you as the player can project your emotions on what's going on. In Silent Hill 2 remake, they gave him so much expression. They made the acting so much more involved that it sort of breaks a little bit of the illusion of the story, the setting, and the character. It starts to lead you towards something, so it breaks a little bit of the immersion, even though it's still the great game. And I think it's a fair replacement for the original Silent Hill 2, like 100%. I don't think Silent Hill 2, the original, has aged that well. It has certainly aged better than Silent Hill 1. It's still really playable, but you can get the full-on Silent Hill 2 experience playing the remake. To me, the original one is still gonna be better because of these subtle things that I've been saying that help you kind of like get lost into this world in between reality and psychosis, as I said. Now, take that, the breaking of the character in Silent Hill 2 remake, and bump that shit to 1,000, 1,000,000, 1,000,000,000, and you have Return to Silent Hill. Return to Silent Hill, as I said at the beginning, it feels like a passion project from the director and the team. But not only that, it's not only a passion project, but this is the interesting thing. And as I said, I want to be positive about it. And the positive outtake that I can take, or can I like interpret about it, or I can think it was the intention of it, this being an allegedly fan of the franchise, the director, interpretation of Silent Hill 2, this is his idea of what he experienced in the game. You catch my drift? This is I said it in my Spanish episode, and I think it's a proper metaphor. You are with a bunch of friends. You all played Silent Hill 2, right? You played it over the weekend, let's say. So you come back on Monday to school, and you are all talking about Silent Hill 2, and everybody's talking about what they thought the game was about. Everybody's talking about their interpretations or their takes about the game. You're all sharing, and one of those guys is Christoph Gans, the director of Return to Silent Hill, or maybe the writers. And they had the chance, out of a passion project, to make their interpretation of Silent Hill 2 into a movie. And that is the best thing I can kind of like the best light I can put this movie under. The most positive of possible interpretation I can make about this movie. This is the writers and the directors' idea of what they thought Silent Hill 2 was about. So when you see Return to Silent Hill, you immediately start seeing a bunch of things that are heavily triggering. And of course, you gotta begin by the main guy, James. James Sutherland in Return to Silent Hill is a really kind of like precise and pinpoint design character from the standpoint of how they made him dress, how they made him behave, how they made him like talk, act, and even how the makeup they used on him. This James Sutherland has nothing to do with the one in the game. Part of me want to think that this is the director or the writers putting themselves on the role of James. Because you can see Return to Silent Hill like with two parallel kind of like lines, by two parallel lines. Most of the things that happen inside the city and the main plot, they are exactly the same as in the game. You know, then you have James's and Mary, in by extension Mary's personalities, development, and characters, and they get awfully strange. As the movie progresses, you start realizing that they made an editorial choice, not only about James but also about Mary and about their relationship. And here's where you're gonna kind of like either get into the movie or be completely repelled by it. The interpretation of James is just one. For Return to Silent Hill in the movie, is just one. If you don't agree with it, you're gonna fucking hate it. I don't think you can really spoil anything about Return to Silent Hill if you have played the game. And if you haven't played the game, I don't know what interest would you have in watching this movie, to be honest. So I'm gonna be quite free with the spoiler, or like the spoiler adjacent kind of things. So as I said before, in the game, James is kind of like this guy who is kind of like in a shock state, who is being drawn by this nightmarish psychosis, and he just tries to survive. That does the term survival horror for the games, right? He's just trying to survive. At the same time, he's revealed pieces of what his psychosis might mean. You know, in Return to Silent Hill, there is an intentional and direct intentional intention from the writers and directors to make this into a Descent to Madness genre movie. For those of you who don't know, a Descent to Madness movie is a movie where the protagonist begins quote-unquote sane, and by whatever is happening in the movie, the development, the situations, he starts losing his mind. This is all and good until you come to this movie with the image of the game Silent Hill 2. Because in Silent Hill 2, as I stated before, the whole point is that James is not really sure what's going on. In Return to Silent Hill, they made everything about James, and they made him both in the script and in the acting and in the makeup, make him progressively insane. This is something completely out there comparing to the game. There is no possible interpretation in Return to Silent Hill. None whatsoever. None. James is crazy. Mary died. He went loco. And now he's progressively getting crazy. And at some point on the movie, it even feels like the movie is treating you like a moron. They do all this heavy makeup on James. They make him behave and act in a psychotic way, almost to leave no chance for interpretation and like no possibility of confusion at all. He's crazy. In the movie, he is crazy. And this is completely spoiler territory. They even go as far as more than heavily imply that James is actually Pyramid Head. More than heavily imply that. Not only they made that choice, but also they make James the cause for the town of Silent Hill to switch between the normal and the nightmare world. We all know Nightmare World by now from Silent Hill. It's one of the game's classic game mechanics. It is one of these game mechanics that have become kind of like like iconic, not only for Silent Hill but for games like this overall, because it's not just a change of gameplay, but it also has heavy meaning on the game stories. Well, here is just James having a breakdown. And that is not only kind of like it can be a really heavy turnoff for fans of the game, but also as a viewer it gets really fucking annoying. No, he has a therapist, he's delirious, he's this, he's that, and it erases almost any chance of you to have any interpretation of the movie, and it feels so strange. Like he goes through several stages and places of the game, not all of them. Totally skips the prison. He just goes to the hospital, the apartment, and the hotel. And by going to these places, all he does is to keep remembering the parts of his relationship with Mary. And here's another thing that Gans does that is extremely strange. He uses Mary to tie Return to Silent Hill with his first Silent Hill movie. This is so fucking strange. Like now creating a kind of lore. And it feels so weird. Connecting them to the whole cult thing. Remember in Silent Hill 1 they wanted to summon the devil or something. And let's talk about Silent Hill 1, Christoph Gans' first movie, for a tiny bit. I really like that movie. Well, it might have something to do that, as I said before, Silent Hill 1 is the Silent Hill of the main series that I haven't played. And of course, he made his own interpretation about it. But Silent Hill 1 had the same kind of like issue, you want to call it, where Gans and team is proposing an interpretation of Silent Hill. It has a beginning, middle, and ending, and it has a coherent plot. You have the sect that they were inside of Silent Hill, and they were using this key to summon a demon because they were a cultist. And then the demon came, he fucked up the whole city, and then they like the kid, the Alessa. No, was she like a reincarnation, the daughter, or was it the same one who was adopted? Whichever the case, it has a coherent plot, but it instead of kind of like relying into the psychotic side of Silent Hill 1 relies on horror tropes. It's visceral, it's gorish, it's the visuals are amazing. Like there's something about the usage of practical effects and a world who is clearly focused on creature design and everything that just makes much more sense. And sorry, but sometimes it feels mean to just say like, oh, this movie's effects are crap, therefore it's bad. But in a case like Silent Hill, it breaks the whole immersion, and you can't say like you haven't done it before, because Silent Hill 1 is like what, 20 years ago, and it looks better. The Nightmare Wall looks better, Silent Hill looks better, the action, the violence, even the whole plot thing is acceptable. There are images about Silent Hill, the first movie, that if you have seen it, you will never forget. And that is a movie that I won't spoil. But you will never forget. Then you jump 20 years to Return to Silent Hill, and they have these awful CGI scenes that are so bad. They're so bad. And I don't know what goes through the mind of a visual effects director or like a visual effects creator that thinks that a guy running in front of a green screen like that is clearly noticeable. Like clearly, believe me. Return to Silent Hill have some scenes that he might be just like reading the weather. You know, like weathermen or weather woman or weather people when they read the weather, like in front of these green screens, like that level of quality, and perhaps even one of those they might look better. Just looks so bad. So if you're not gonna have the immersion from the character or from the plot, like you won't have it either by the looks of it, by the visual quality of it. You know, the creatures are mediocre and the visuals are mediocre. Then you realize that this was, as I said at the very beginning, what this movie is Guns and Company's idea of what Silent Hill 2 was. You can be really positive about that idea. Okay, they played the game and they thought the game was about James going crazy and he's traumatized by the loss of his wife. Therefore, he had this mental breakdown that was all on his mind. In his mind, and all of this happened in his mind. He's crazy. That's a fair and possible interpretation. But the problem with that, what does that really mean? Is that you alienate like any other possible interpretation. That is a dangerous thing to do. When you take these decisions, when you take these editorial decisions on why characters are how they are, why they do what they do, you alienate people that thinks different to you. And you might say like, yeah, but that's every movie, that's every argument. You are not gonna satisfy everybody. But then you have the game. You have Silent Hill 2, the game. And you know it's possible to rely on ambiguity and psychosis and like, in a way, let's all of us have a psychotic breakdown. You don't need to take me by the hand and tell me this is exactly what it means. Even more so, by doing that, they keep forgetting so many other elements of the game. You have like, the game doesn't have that many characters, but each one of them kind of like serve the purpose to create this ambience in which Silent Hill is a world of psychotic trauma. You know, it's a world of trauma. I always like that idea of having Silent Hill be this hub where people can experience their trauma in a visual horrific way. You know, as a horror fan, that sounds like an amazing idea, isn't it? Like, this is an imaginary or fantastic world where people are allowed to live their trauma and experience it in a way that is more cathartic than almost anything you can ever think of. That's what it is. Imagine living your catharsis in the flesh. That's a really interesting and appealing idea. But anyways, going back to the movie, almost to a close. The problem with Return to Silent Hill is not only that the quality is poor visually. It's not only that the performances are sort of mid. The main problem is that they made a choice. They made an editorial choice of telling a story that doesn't have one ending, literally a story that doesn't have one interpretation, and make it into one really explicit, really reduced, really almost take me by the hand and lead me sort of story. So if you love the game, I guarantee you're not gonna like this movie. Even if you are open-minded enough to look beyond the lack of like graphical quality, since it's a low budget movie. Even if you can look behind all of that, if you love the game, the only choice, or like the only chance you like this movie, it's if you have the exact same fucking idea, scene by scene, line by line, that these writers had. Then you go like, damn, look at that. That is exactly what I thought the game was about. And you'll be like rewarded. Now, if you are that kind of person, I would really like to meet you. If you really thought this was exactly what Silent Hill 2 was about, I would like to hear your thoughts. To me, as I said in more than one instance, the big, like, kind of a conclusion you can have about Return to Silent Hill, to me, it's a joke. When they try to explain a joke to you, and you try so hard to explain every detail and everything, I'm gonna explain this joke to you, and you explain it so much that you end up fucking up the punchline, and then it's not funny anymore. That's what I feel about this movie. So many elements and so many things about the game, especially about James, that you didn't need to have them explained. It was never the point, and to me, it has never been the point in any Silent Hill, perhaps until Silent Hill F. The strength of Silent Hill was always the kind of like open-ended and interpretative nature of its protagonists. Even in the ones that were more explicit, like Silent Hill Origins. In Silent Hill Origins, the trucker guy, you can really see a lot of the movie. You can see the first movie having an effect on the franchise. You can totally see that, having this really explicit sect or cult being behind Silent Hill. But then, as the game progresses, you get into the trucker. I don't remember the truck guy name, the truck driver names. But you get into his own psychosis, into his own secrets. Then when you get to the best part of the game, to the motel, you get like a bunch of lore about his possible kind of like sins, if you want to call it. You gotta be fucked up to get trapped in Silent Hill. The same happens in Downpour, a game that is arguably bad. I really enjoyed it the first time, but it's the same. You get into the prison and you don't really know what the guy did throughout the whole game. You get immersed and kind of like feel participating out of his psychosis. What did he do? What does the prison mean? What do all of these symbols and all of these things happen? What happened to him? If I were to retell you all of these stories, take you by the hand and tell you by the second, this means this means that, this means that, how on earth are you going to enjoy that? Perhaps somebody can. I'm not going to tell you what to enjoy and what not to enjoy. But in my case, that has always been the strength of Silent Hill. As I said, I can throw some shade into Silent Hill F, and I think that is probably the weakest aspect of Silent Hill F. But even Silent Hill F gives you as a sort of open ending situation, or like an ending that allows you to have some creativity about it. Not so much in Return to Silent Hill. And I guess that's it. Return to Silent Hill is a bad movie, but it's not as much. It's not as bad as a movie as it is as bad as an interpretation on the game, and as bad as it is as a reinterpretation of the concepts, the spirits, and what made the game great. That's it. It's sad because, as I said, Silent Hill 1 is a pretty decent movie. I haven't seen it in like a good 5 years or so, to be honest. And I think I should give it a rewatch. I think in my memories, Silent Hill 1 was a way more introspective movie in, as I said, even though it had a really explicit plot, instead of relying on the psychosis of the characters, it relied on this like classic horror like like in Hot Fuzz. You're realizing this classic horror trope of the survivor against the cult, like everybody's against them and you are trapped in an unescapable situation. How will the protagonist escape these pressing matters and such and so forth? But anyways, that is my weekly take on a movie. I really wish this movie was better. As I've said plenty times now, I really enjoyed Silent Hill 1, and I really had faith on this one. I really wish we live in a world with more practical effects. I really wish we live in a world where people would like to share like moments of delusion or psychosis. Like, let's get all into this together, man. We don't need to share like a joint or some drug to share on it. We can share feelings. We can share strong emotions, sadness, happiness, and even psychosis through the magic of movies and film. We can share it. We can live them together. We can experience them together, and perhaps in some way we can both grow from them together. But if you make a choice of excluding everybody else, I'm sorry. If I'm not invited to the party, how am I going to enjoy it? Though, if you're not invited to, like, let's say a wedding and they have awesome cake, and then you go either way, like, I wasn't invited, but fuck it, I'm here to eat cake, and the cake is awesome, and you don't really like that the people that are getting married, you don't like them that much. Like, they might be assholes, but you just barely know them enough to get in the room and eat the cake. Man, maybe it's worth it. Maybe. We'll see. Let me know how that cake tastes when we meet each other next week with another commentary. But for now, that's it for me. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great trip to your own psychosis. You're not invited to mine yet. Bye bye.